School Board meeting to order for June 13th, 2022. First item is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next item is roll call of board members. We'll start with Director Winter.
Ron Winter.
Jeremy LeBlanc.
Sonia Peterson.
Sharon Rupp.
John Odegaard.
Matt Temple.
Thank you. Next item is approval of the agenda. I have one addition to add item 9.10, contract for student teaching with NDSU.
SDSU.
Oh, I'm sorry. SDSU.
SDSU would be mandated.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you for that correction. Reading of the Wyoming mission approval of the agenda with that addition of 9.1. Is there a motion, 9.1, is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the agenda by Zempel.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second by Peterson.
There's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Reading of the Wyoming mission statement is our next item. And our mission is to provide a caring environment of high expectations that prepares every student for a successful future and instills the value of learning. Next item is public address to the Board of Education. Is there anyone present wishing to speak? Okay. Hearing none, then we're on to consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda with the exception of check number 23883? I'm going to pull that check out from the consent agenda, and we will do that one as its own motion and second. So is there a motion to approve consent agenda except check number 23883?
Motion to approve consent agenda as stated by the director or by Zempel.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second by Winter.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Our next item is to approve check number 23883. Is there a motion to approve? This check is for a board member, so we will just allow that board member to abstain and not vote on that. So is there a motion to approve check number?
I'll make that motion to approve.
Okay. Thank you. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second by Winter.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Okay. Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no.
I abstain.
We have one abstain. Motion does carry. Item number 8 is reports. We'll start with the Wymey Art Program with Tammy Eisfeld. Welcome.
Thank you. Just a short little video just kind of highlighting some of the things from the year.
Is the microphone?
And so, it seems like it's so busy during the year, there's hardly a moment to share what's going on, so I just wanted to just talk a little bit about what we're doing. I teach grades 6 through 12, and we do a little bit of everything during that time. So we have photography, painting, video, we do ceramics, drawing, just about anything you can think of, we do it. Welding, it's maybe gonna go? Not All right, so we do a gallery exhibits, we do those downtown. That's at the Granite Area Arts Council. And the reason for that versus in school, like when there's a concert, is then they become the second thing or an extra, and they need their time to shine just as much as a band or a choir or something else going on. So we have moved them to downtown. They set up their own show, they have to write an artist statement, they have to figure out how it's going to be hung. The community then comes, listens to them present their artwork. They talk with the community at large. It really is like a real art exhibit. It's a lot of pressure on them, but they live up to it, and they do their best work when they know it's going to be on display. We also had a curated art exhibit. This was through a SMOC grant, and so the students had we have 2 rooms in the gallery, and one room was like an art experience, and so they were selected students based on criteria of they are excel compared to other students with being cooperative, working well with others, being able to show that they'll put the work effort into it to make it happen. They have to work with light and prisms. They found out that working with color and light is a whole different ballgame than working with paint colors and blending and making that. So they learned a little bit about the science of color and light theory. They practiced some of that in the classroom, and then they had to create this whole room experience. And they became quite close friends by doing that. We also do public art. Heather's Nook, we started last year with another SMOC grant with paper dresses, so the bottom one on the left-hand side, those are all paper dresses. And then we decided this year to go with a circus absurdist theme. Getting back to the school year, it felt a little bit like a circus going through some of the things, so that was our theme. And so each student that was selected to do that made their own dresses. They were sewn with fabrics. They made their own backgrounds. The whole thing had to be put together for a display that will be up for the year. It's kind of by the popcorn stand downtown, if you're not sure where Heather's Nook is at. So a lot of time. I suppose they worked pretty diligently for about 2 months on that. We also have independent students that worked with fabricating metal. There they made a large life-size scale pelican, and that will be going into a city park kind of by the dam, by the power plant type, right in that general area, in that little park there. So right now it was on display for the Makers Market this past week, or 2 weeks now maybe. We also have a PBS video productions journalism class. That was sponsored through a LIFT grant. Amanda Anderson from PBS worked with the students. We went to the studio. We had lots of time to work that where it says cry when it's done. They found out that an operation, when you are having something to be created and has a deadline, is not school rules, it's life rules. And they found out that, nope, we don't have time to whine about it. Guest artists, Jesse Hennon, Danny Parados, and Amanda Anderson, they worked with those 3 quite closely on different projects. Jesse was the writer. Danny has expertise in TV and videos and things all over. Oh. This is a little cartoon type video that a student made, but the audio is not working right now for some reason. But, and that was just kind of work through a grief thing that she was going through from a loss of a student, and so it was a way of working through that. So sometimes art becomes a way of working through things as well. And there's more to that video, but it just gives you a glimpse of the artwork. That's all created by a student. Cultural Art Indigenous Art Day, that was one day, beginning of May. We brought several schools together, kind of an integration project. They made 8-point star quilts. They had other projects going on, and then students that are up there in the upper photo are who helped plan that entire day for like 120 students. So it was pretty impressive what they put together. We also do other cultures, Mexican, Scandinavian, African, Aboriginal. The African one there, you might see a little protractor. We do a lot with the math and the calculating angles and making sure things are right. Sometimes very frustrating when they first look at that as a new tool, but it's part of it. And these are the 8 habits of mind that we really focus on in the art room: curiosity, openness, engagement, creativity, persistence, responsibility, flexibility, and metacognition. So what you don't see in that video, though, is you don't see the the kids that maybe struggle in some of their other classes that can excel in the art room, that they also they can be an expert. They don't need to have a para sitting right next to them, and if there's a para in the room, you don't know why that para is in that room. You don't see the students that are begging to take their work home so they can work on it longer. I don't think a lot of teachers in other subject areas get that. You don't see that from the PBS class that two of our students end up with internships and still working at PBS and looking now at possible career paths in that area. You don't see the cliques that form typically throughout, all of a sudden those are gone. Doesn't matter if you're in ninth grade, doesn't matter if you're a senior. I might know something that you want to know. You don't see that one student that was in the downtown Rainbow exhibit, who does very well with social media, had 4,000 viewers to get people involved to come and see our exhibit that I couldn't do with just a newspaper. So those are few of the things that you don't see with our program. A lot of it was done through different grants, SMOC grants. We have our Kiwanis grants. We have foundation grants. We have Leave No Child Inside, which happens tomorrow, grant. So it does help. I appreciate the support that you do give to the art department. And if that ever had a wish list, you don't see an elementary art program. And if I ever had a wish list, that's where I would like to see that go, to have a full-time art. I do have students that would go there periodically during the year to kind of help with preschool. But those kids that not sure school is for them, sometimes the art is the only thing, or maybe it's a FIAD or whatever, but there's these other areas that they don't seem as like important when you're looking at maybe at school budgets, but they are to those kids. So anyway, just my 2 cents, and I appreciate you taking the time to let me share about the kids. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
For the visual slideshow.
Oh,
Yeah, they work hard.
Yeah, they do. They really do work hard, so.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Good summer.
Thank you so much. Next is Wymey QComp Annual Report with Andy Holt.
Okay, I am Andy Holt, here to present end of the year QComp summary reports here for you guys. I'm a special education teacher at middle school, high school, and a member of the QComp Council. On behalf of the QComp Council, I'm here to summarize our year in QComp. Board members and administration should all have a copy of the report. It hasn't been available for very long, so I don't know if you've had a chance to look at it. But you should have it, and I do have a copy here with me as well. First of all, QComp Council and staff set a district goal we would work towards through our QComp activities. Each building's goal stated the percentage of students in grades 2 through 10 at or above grade level on the STAR reading assessment will increase 4% from spring 2021 to 2022. As in the previous year, our staff felt strongly that we wanted to use STAR data for measurement, as it gives feedback multiple times throughout the year and is taken by most of our students. We also felt STAR would help us measure progress throughout the year and guide and inform our instruction. The STAR is designed to correlate closely with the MCA tests, so we felt it was an appropriate method to use. While we made progress towards our district goal, we did not meet our goal for this year. As in the past, we've had a variety of QComp activities staff were actively involved in. They included 28 hours of PLC community time, teacher observations with discussion and reflection, 3 hours PLC training by New Teacher Center, and exemplary grants. There is some examples here of goals that different PLCs and individuals used. For instance, percentage of students at or above grade level on the STAR going up, using best practices to bring up different students' grade levels. Let's see. And then just individual things like identifying story elements on rubrics, things like that. And if you guys would like more examples of that, I can provide that for you as well. Last year, we had introduced the option of a virtual lesson, like recording a lesson and letting your PLC facilitator work with you on that versus an in-person. It offered some advantages, especially like during distance learning periods and things like that. And then it's also kind of nice to have to then discuss with your PLC after it's over and kind of do a group thing that way. Last year we did not meet our district goal. This resulted in an amount of money not distributed to teachers. After discussion, it was decided to use that money to provide exemplary grants this year with that money that was not distributed. Some examples of projects that were completed with those grants would be author studies, scholastic magazines or art, reading projects, word work bundles, classroom libraries, interactive read-alouds, these newer Jot writing tablets that are kind of interesting, and books to support your various curriculums in your classroom. Those are just all examples of things used by those exemplary grants. Thank you for giving me time to share how QComp works in the Wyoming district. Your support of the QComp program is very much appreciated. Does anybody have questions for me?
I know
Or if you come up with some later, being that you know you haven't had access to the report that long, feel free to email me, contact me, whatever you would.
Yeah, I did read it this afternoon, and this always stumps me when in the section it says impact. And what percentage of all licensed staff met the standard to earn performance pay for the measures of students' achievement? And it was 0. Is that the one that's always, you want it to be 0%?
Let's see.
No?
I believe that's met the star reading goal.
Yeah.
We don't want it to be 0.
No, but like as a whole, the district, we did not meet the goal that we had set of the 4%
Okay.
increase in those that are at or above. I think the actual, okay, so it would be the third page of that report. 2021, grade 2 through 10 was at 35.88%.
Okay.
21, 22, 2 through 10 was at 34.79.
So this year it was 0. Because
We did not meet our district
meet.
goal.
Do you know what that percentage has been the last few years?
I don't have that here, and I don't know it off the top of my
Okay.
head.
Well, we
but-
didn't make it, we haven't made it for the last 3 years.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Any other
all I have.
questions on the
Shannon, the
QComp?
handbook would either be all certified or 0, because of how it's set up is either the district makes it or we don't. There were a few years.
Okay,
in
that's-
building-
That's what I
My
think I was.
first year, we had BRE versus middle school, high school, and I think to clean things up, we decided to go,
Yeah.
It's going to be
Just
100% or
support
0%.
well, to figure out which group somebody fit in. There's times when it's confusing. Are you a BRE employee or are you a middle school, high school employee? So that's one reason.
Okay.
I got a
That's all I
question.
had. Thank you, Andy.
I got a question.
Yeah.
So, we haven't met our goal this year, and we haven't met it for a couple of years. Is there somewhere in here where there's an after-action findings of why we think we haven't done that and what we could do differently to do that?
Sure, so each teacher, when you get to the end of the year and you have these reflection forms, each teacher goes through and kind of self-reflects on that, and our PLCs do as a group as well.
Okay.
So that does happen. And then, one of the things that I kind of mentioned was that being that those monies aren't distributed, there's just a section of that budget that's distributed based on meeting the goal or not meeting the goal, then that money was turned into exemplary grants, and then, you were able to apply. And the big one that I saw and that I used was the classroom library money.
Okay.
But-
So is that in turn to try to change the outcomes to see improvements? Is that the intent?
Yeah, yep,
Okay.
and the big thing would be the reflection there, and then using that information, you know, the PLC meeting, this group meeting, and on an individual level, to try to, you know, what are you gonna do about this next year? What are you going to improve or change?
Okay. Thank you.
Yep, thank you guys. Let me know if you have any questions, email me or whatever.
All right, thank you, Mr. Holt. Next is Burt Rainey Elementary report with Mrs. Hanson.
All right, mine is fairly short tonight. First item is BRE Fun Day. It was our first year without Mrs. Gray, and so we changed things up a little bit and, you know, saw some positives and negatives, but really ended up forming a Fun Day committee, and everybody jumped in to help. And so what I gave you was a copy of the schedule that we sent home to parents, and then we invited them in, and we actually had many parents here throughout the day. But lots of staff were involved, had a lot of people help. Weather actually was chilly in the morning, but we all said we'd take that over the 95 and sunny and everybody sunburned, so it was a great day. Also just wanted to report that, so as you know from prior board meetings, I have 9 teachers that are participating in the letters training. The state has now come out with principal training for letters, and so I am enrolled in that. It's been really interesting. It does look different than the teachers. I'm only 2 classes in, so it runs through most of the summer.
So you don't have to do the instructional part of it? Because that's what, when you told me about it, that's what,
Yes.
how are you going to do that?
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think I'm the second group filled up immediately. Like, I had a tip that it was coming, so I got in right away, and now they're offering additional sessions. So I think statewide people are trying to get in. I view it so far as more of an overview of what my staff are doing, and then there is some foundational pieces. So it's been interesting.
How many hours, do you know?
I think my admin hours were 45, I believe.
Because the full program's what, 114,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yes. Like, ours are 1-hour sessions.
Yeah. So all the classes for next year right now are full?
Yes.
Just to give you a heads up, for next year are full. And you all saw the legislature did not fund it again yet. So I don't know what's going to happen.
And is that now a done deal, or could that still
They can
come
still
back?
have a special session. But
Okay.
I see I got an email while I was sitting here. I don't know if anybody read. MSBA sent something. Nope,
Okay.
not about that. Sorry.
Number 3 on my agenda is a copy of the staff development calendar, which is on an action item for later this evening. And really, just so you're aware, those dates are actually also on the school district calendar. It's just that this is a requirement of staff development that we have a separate calendar, so it actually has been helpful since we put that together. I know we've referenced it many
Can I interject one
times.
thing? Part of the reason we publish that is for people that are maintaining their licensure can get in here and get their CEUs done. We won't pay them for it, but they have that opportunity. So.
The next item is just a playground update. A few of you probably heard some comments at the beginning of the meeting. I brought in a design for Jeremy and Mr. Schneider, completely fictitious, an amazing piece of playground equipment. It is not in our budget, nor is it even on the table. But I shared with you the first letter that went out, which wanted you just to be aware of who is on our playground committee. We had our first meeting today, this afternoon, and almost everyone was able to attend, in addition to, I think we had 6 or 8 students from Burt Rainey there as well. We had, today really what we did was we took a look at 5 different designs, all within a general price range, and the groups went around and identified positives and negatives, and then created a list of questions for the playground designer. And it's been interesting. Jeremy and Mr. Schneider, I did send back some information on the base that we had some questions that came back right away. So, but we've got a number of meetings set up throughout the summer, and our goal would be is to come forward with some design recommendations. And it was really neat. I mean, we had preschoolers all the way up to fourth graders there today, and just to kind of get their take on what they tuned into. But we had quite a list of positives and negatives of each design. And then the designer will take those and bring us back with additional ones to look at. So any questions on that? No? Okay. Just a couple to kind of recap some summer events at Burt Rainey. ECFE is, I attached the copy of our summer programming. Again, has been very popular. We are typically running at least probably 2 a month. Have had multiple people. Last time I looked, I think for the one that is scheduled for later this week, it was close to 20, and I haven't looked at it for probably a week. So it's nice to be able to get people back in. Fun in the Sun is our Burt Rainey summer program, and that really has taken off. We run that Tuesday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, and I did a count before I came over, and we have 57 kids coming tomorrow. And you'll notice I did attach a list of the different classes that we are offering. We tried to put a spin on some interests of the students, and then we can weave math and reading in. But it's everything from Titanic, Detective Camp, Ice Cream, Olympics, classic games, and I won't go through them all, but there have been, some of our classes are close to 15 in a class, so we've had a really good turnout. Along with that, we're also continuing with our literacy interventions, and that is for this from 21-22 kindergarten and first graders, and they were identified through a set of criteria and were invited in. So they are coming in for 1 hour. It's basically a tier 2, sometimes a tier 3 intervention, which basically means the ratio of teacher to student is typically 1 to 4, sometimes as low as 1 to 2. And so they're coming in for that. And then also we're doing our Be a Reader program as well, and that just started last week, and I did link the flyer for that as well. So students are able to read at home and then bring that in and pick out some free books to take home. So have also had a very good turnout for that. Any questions for me?
Sounds like a busy summer.
It has been. It has been. Okay, thank you.
Such good stuff. Thank you, Mrs. Hanson. Next is Wymey Middle School, High School Board Report with Mr. Kent.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Evening.
I will also do my best to be brief here, starting with several recap items. That's certainly been a busy last few weeks throughout the district, certainly at the middle school, high school here, wrapping up the school year, and several of the events that come with the end of the school year, including the SYME Banquet. We touched on this briefly, I know at our last meeting as well, just with the record amount of funds available to our students and able to provide those as they begin their post-secondary endeavors. That's very exciting for them. Baccalaureate, which we held on May 18th. It sounds like that came with rave reviews for those students and families that attended. I certainly thought that it was a really, really great event and really powerful for our kids. A lot of good conversations came from that. In the days following the baccalaureate service, our Minnesota Honor Society induction, we had 10 students that are new to the society now, specific to Wyoming. That was also very good. Thanks to Leah kind of for heading that, as I had to be out unexpectedly that afternoon, but that went very well. And then our Chords and Awards Banquet, that was a very good event. We had the entirety of our student body there, also was open to community members, family as well, for those that were being honored, which we honored a variety of students for specific awards as it relates to specific departments within the middle school, high school, and several awards as it related to academic achievements of students, directly related to GPA and other measures. And throughout that time, definitely highlighting our seniors that were set to graduate the next day as well, which took place, of course, on June 3rd. Really great event, really good turnout. Heard a lot of positive things said within our school community, certainly just as we wrapped up our school year and during the workshop time. And just from others, just uptown, several positive comments on that. So that is a great thing as well. I will not repeat. I tried to convince Crystal, especially, well, both of them, the Cords and Awards and the graduation, that it should be removed from YouTube, as I've been heckled deservingly several days after that for a certain word that I hope to never speak again. And shouldn't have to.
Bringing that for kindergarten.
I was going to say, shouldn't have to at an elementary level anyways.
Yeah.
I have had it played back to me several times,
Yeah.
even in meme form, so that's fantastic. But again, deservingly so. On my own part.
Being a good sport.
No, I think it was over preparation. It lacked execution very much. But all good things. That's been a super exciting last couple of weeks. Great bunch of kids. We have a great bunch throughout 6 through 12, but that was a really, really good group of kids at the seniors. So we'll wish them only the best here, as they'll have a busy few weeks and months and years ahead. Whatever they choose to pursue, they'll be successful. A couple of notes on some great things happening. Our credit recovery program, and I wanted to pull this up, and I was going to include it in my initial notes. I apologize for not doing that. Just as a quick look at our numbers as it relates to number of students that are participating in previous years. And I meant to share this out, and I certainly can after the meeting. But in 2019, 2020, we had 13 students that were referred to credit recovery, which ultimately means entering 9 through 12 students, if they failed a class either semester, they'd be referred to credit recovery to remedy that failing grade. So it was 13 kids in 1920, 39 kids in 2021, 66 students in 21-22. And this year, we're hoping we made even a little heftier progress to kind of flat out that line a little bit, but 36 for 2022, for 22-23. Certainly not to compare, but I think just some healthy information to know on the back end is that our area school districts in the association that I'm involved with, which include Lac Parle, Dawson, Lakeview, Montevideo, maybe another one or two, but those are the ones present at the meeting. Certainly their numbers are rather elevated and inflated, just as we're talking COVID or whatever it may be. There's certainly a backlog that we're seeing in Wymey specifically of kids continuing to catch up. But definitely a lot of improvement, I would say, was made throughout the school year. And like I said, if we cut that number down in half again next year, we'll be in pretty good shape. Because we'll always have that number in other districts too, but always room for improvement there. And we have 36 students, pretty good showing. Berta and Christy are heading that up, which that started immediately following the formal close to our school year, and that's from 9 to 3, I believe. That runs Monday through Thursday. Berta in her space, and then Christy takes over Mr. Jan's space in the summer months there. And a pretty good turnout. A lot of work's been done, and a lot of students since we started have already knocked out their course or whatever it may be. So already a little lighter, simply because some students had a lighter load to complete than others. Any questions on that specifically?
So once they, just a quick question. So
Yeah.
once they complete whatever it is, it's like unfinished classroom stuff, then
Yep.
are they done? So you've got people that are done right away once they get their credit recovery? And
Yep.
maybe you'll be there a lot longer.
Yep, exactly. So it involves quite a bit of coordinating. Hats off to Leah, Berta, and Christy, kind of get that figured out, and then coordination with the ALC as well. In Montevideo, the Minnesota Valley ALC helps us out with that. But exactly. Students know what they need to accomplish, and when they get that done, they're free then
So like,
from
for
attendance.
example, if they had an F in the class, for instance, the credit recovery doesn't replace that F, but it addresses the missing credit.
It
towards graduation.
remedies it. Yep,
Remedies it.
exactly. So wouldn't displace it from their transcript per se, or
Right.
erase it, but would be, as far as graduation credits, they'd be in line and in good shape then. Yep. And I think there's always ways to improve that, and I could go off on a tangent here, and I think all districts think that. And Leah and I have had a lot of conversations the last year. There's a new lead, a new principal at the Minnesota Valley Area Learning Center that will be taking, I think, just here in July, or maybe he already started now. And there's already talks, and there was talks throughout this year as far as improvements to that credit recovery program, what that may look like. And I think the new guy will have some ideas as well as far as what that looks like for kids. Just a quick note on that. Some pieces that we looked at. So Carrie Spay is an English instructor at the ALC, and some things that we did this year. And again, credit to Leah, credit to the ALC, willing to try some things as far as looking at the standards the students fell short of to earn that credit. And we did some things with NWA testing, where we had a baseline for kids, and then instead of them having to do the entire, which I hate this word, but the packet work, is able to kind of dice through there and address what standards the students didn't make as addressed by the NWA test. So we had probably, over 20, 25 kids that participated. We had 2 different sessions where Carrie came in, did the NWA testing for our kids on site, and then kind of dissected that and shared that back with Leah and I. So I think that's kind of maybe more meaningful is the word I'm looking for. Instead of, some of that credit recovery work, it feels a little bit jumping through the hoop, but it's not a perfect system by any means. But I think some exciting conversations will take place in the next year as it relates to that credit recovery piece.
Can I interject a little bit?
Yeah.
Superintendents met today about that exact same thing. And so we're looking at ways that we can do it better. We don't want the packet program, individualized learning program is what the actual term is, to take over for our students. We don't want students to take it as a quick way or an easy way out. So we're trying to figure that out. What's a good balance? One proposal we had today was a satellite program in each of the high schools, so that students didn't choose full-time packets. I love this credit recovery where they identify just the standards they're lacking. And the classroom teachers can be a big part of that too, which I think he tried to tackle this year too. So I think in the next couple of years it's going to change dramatically. So.
Interesting.
No, I think we're in a good spot. And like I said, I was excited. I was hoping that number was even lower for us here, simply because when we get up elevated, it gets to a point our system really can't sustain it, nor would I want it to be able to sustain it either. So anyways, I think we're in a good spot there. Soon to be in a better spot. Our middle school STEAM camp, so it's kind of a shared venture, and that's with RCW, ourselves here at Wymey, Canby, and Lakeview. So that started on the 7th, and the way that runs is this Tuesday through Thursday, and the kids get bused there. It ends up being probably on site wherever they're at, like 9 to 1. So last week it was in RCW, and the theme was aerodynamics. The students had a good time there. Ms. Eisfeld, as she alluded to, she'll be on the ball for us starting tomorrow, and that'll run Tuesday through Thursday. And she is doing, I think it's exploring art and nature, and they're going to visit, I'm blanking right now, I had it on my notes. What is our spot called out there? Our little nature spot.
Prairie Fire?
Prairie Smoke.
Prairie Smoke. Prairie Smoke. Yep. So they'll be doing some things out there. Hopefully the weather will cooperate. Might be a little steamy there, but she has some contingencies built in there as well. 21st to 23rd, the kids will be in Canby doing some aviation-related activities, and then Lakeview is the 28th through 30th, and they're doing some STEAM-related embedded things through like an escape room type piece. So we have, how many kids? I think four.
Eight.
What's that?
Is the magic number 8?
8? Yes, and we were able to, some didn't fill
So
all of
two
theirs,
extras.
so we scooped them up. So I think we got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like close to a dozen, I think. Dozen kids that are participating, and they've been having a good time, and Mr. Holt is heading that up for us. So Miss Eisel will be the instructor for Wyoming's leading the activities, but Mr. Holt is accompanying all of these kids, which he has a really good rapport with many of them attending. So that's been a good fit for us as well. Master schedule for 22-23. Say Leah and I have been putting quite a bit of time into this with the support of other staff members. We kind of surveyed, started our process, I'd say in March, as far as proposed changes on an individual instructor level and also department level. Some changes that may be necessary or just may be fruitful in other means, providing some options for kids, which of course a lot of that comes back to first dissecting how many students there are in each class. So like an English one, for example, how many ninth graders do we have, piecing that out, starting there, and kind of developed a process that I hope will be able to help future years. Like I said, when you get that base and you can already start to kind of predict the schedule and what it may look like, you know, for future years to come, just looking at the number of students in a grade level, even backing up, you know, to see how many BRE kids we're going to have, you know, as next year's 5th graders and planning. So I think we have a pretty good plan in place, not just for this year, but for future years as well. Of course, there's always variations, certainly as it relates to those non-required courses and some elective offerings, but the master schedule that I believe was included in board book should be set in stone, unless there's a surprise that I don't know about. I'd say we have every student scheduled, which there's always some variation there. There may be some changes come fall or when they're made available to kids, but I think things are in a pretty good place there. So we should be in a good spot in the fall, like I said, to combat little pieces if there's something that comes up with kids or there's some changes in heart as far as what they're interested in taking. But I think things are in a pretty good spot right now for the schedule. So the schedule itself should be final, the master schedule that was shared, and then kids are actually in those classes. We should be in a good spot. And again, why I say I can't say it's final, because again, some kids may have some changes of heart as it relates to either a core class they're taking or a band or choir, which could shift things. And like our MERVED courses, and I'm blanking on what they're called, but they're not completely final yet. But that's just because we haven't received that information yet from other districts as it relates to what courses they may be offering. So I think we're in a pretty good spot there. And thanks to Leah for a lot of conversation, a lot of hours on that. We made a pretty good team knocking that out. And the last piece I have is just welcome to the team, Mary. We had Mary Beckler, which you'll see her name later on in the meeting, and she's been a fantastic addition. My goodness, she brought a ton of experience. She's been in Lindsay's room working with her students that she serves the last few weeks of the year, and she's excited to come back. We're excited to have her back next year, and she's just been a really, really strong addition to our team. But that's all I have. Is there any questions?
Any questions?
Perfect.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next is district report with Mr. Schneider.
Just to give you a heads up, we have filled 3 positions, or at the end of the meeting, we'll have 3 of those positions filled tonight. We do still have some openings. We have a district-wide custodian, 2 Native American community cultural liaisons, 1 for each building. Those are still open, unfilled. We have a middle school, high school principal position. We'll set up an interview for another candidate on Wednesday again. So that will probably be at 4 o'clock, but we'll talk about that later. We still have a position open for English language teacher. We do have someone that's unlicensed that could fill that position. We can't fill that until after July 1st because of the licensure status of that. So, and then we're still looking for a gifted and talented coordinator. I think that's all we have left. It seems like a high number. I go to my superintendent's meetings and I'm happy as a lark to be in this position. So we are much better off than anybody immediately touching us. And when I say anybody, literally anybody. So that's the state of affairs we're in right now. Auditorium reconstruction update. One of these months I'm going to get this completely off there. Krantz came in and did a bunch of work, but we're still waiting for him to do some trim on the hallway up there by the Spanish room where that little, that stage was in that classroom. We just have some trim we need on there, and then we'll be done with that. So, knock on wood, I would think that we should be able to get that done shortly. We had a work session where we talked about our facilities analysis review. I'm going to meet with Scott Munson. I don't know if you folks saw this, but Scott Munson also accepted superintendency at Minneota. His intent, though, is to continue in this capacity. So he'll still be able to act as a consultant for us. So that's what I've heard so far. We'll see if he tells me something different on Wednesday. We have a lot to think about in terms of that facilities analysis. I believe I sent it to you folks, didn't I?
Yes.
Didn't I send it? It's a huge document. One thing to keep in mind, in 2 years, we start dropping off our bonds for what we did here for our HVAC. So some thought should be given if we want to maintain a tax-neutral decision going forward. So that's really what we're going to need to, the tough question we're going to have to take a look at. Prioritizing if we want to do something or if we don't. And if we are going to prioritize, we need to know what that is to get things out, just so we're not behind the 8 ball. So, calendar for 21-22, we caught a mistake in there. It has been updated. We had the open house is supposed to be on Wednesday night, not Thursday night, of that open house or that back to school week. So that's corrected out there
For last year?
for this year, this coming fall.
This says 21, 22.
Oh, yeah. So another mistake. So 22, 23. So, all right, frontline worker pay, we push that information out to our employees. Remember, we don't help with that, so there may be a lot of misunderstanding. The employer, there's no way we could help people with that. It's all, the onus is on the employees, and we only have to inform our current employees. So we send out a text message to get them to check their email. Hopefully they did that. Ultimately, the onus is on them. If they want the money, they'll have to do a little work. Legislature update. So basically they left the session without getting anything done in terms of money. They didn't have to. I want to be clear. The legislature had no requirement to come up with a plan to spend the surplus. So that's going to carry forward unless they still could have a special session, but now I'm hearing less and less, so I'm not very confident that anything will transpire. Just in case you wanted to talk to someone about it on Wednesday from 3:30, or starting at 3:30 at the Granite Falls City Council chambers, you can join me down there and talking to Senator Dames. He is pretty education friendly. He will be receptive to it. He's the only one I know that will be there, but it is an opportunity for us at least to advocate in terms of education. So, ESSER 3 application, I did receive word that our application was approved to spend it in a couple different ways. So After tonight, we get the budget done, we'll start working on getting a budget into ESSER 3. My intent is to hopefully offset some of our general fund expenditures so our deficit spending is not as severe. Just a reminder, our principals do not show up in July for their reports. Do appreciate their work in coming to these meetings throughout the school year, so a little bit of a reprieve for them. If you have any questions, bring them to me and I'll get you the information. I'll make something up. Strategic plan. No, I won't make something up. Sorry. Strategic plan, I continue to work on that as I find time. We still have some work to do on that, along with some of the protocol that was proposed to us by MSBA in terms of your operation. So I'll keep plugging away as I find time. Summer food service program did start right away after school got out, and so that will continue to run through the month of June. And then we have nothing in July or August. And then you should have received an email about the MSBA summer seminar. It is a Zoom. If you would like to be enrolled in that, please reach out to Denise. She can get you enrolled in that and pay for that ahead of time. It's at 8 to noon on Thursday, August 4th. I'm signed up for it. Health screenings, I should have attached this to it, so what I'm going to do is I'll give you an update on that in July to let you know. As you know, we hired a second nurse, at least part-time, Mary Moore, to help out, and I think we did a pretty good job in getting caught back up with things. We're still going to lag a little bit because we had 2 years where we couldn't really catch up on that, and a lot of parents were reluctant to take their students in to get the vaccination for fear of exposure. So, right? And that's all I have. Any questions?
Expanding on the conversation about the levy coming, or not the levy, the referendum coming due in the next couple of years if we want to maintain a tax neutral status, when and how soon do we need to start thinking about that?
That's what I'm going to find out on Wednesday.
Okay.
Because I've never, I don't know how it would look if we have to go out for the bond requests ahead before you start considering the project. I just don't know the timeline on that.
Does that referendum have to be for a project? Just given the light of inflation and where we're at, the state of everyday costs, is that going to be
I mean, just go for a number and then
yeah.
trust us to...
No, I'm not saying that. I mean, I'd like to look at projects for the building, but are we getting the cart in front of the horse thinking we may need to
This is
keep...
what it's going to cost, and that's the cost.
No,
Inflation's gonna-
are we looking at a referendum to keep the lights on versus improve our building?
Well, there's two of them, all right? So we'll have an operating referendum, which right now that's about $1,180 per pupil that our local taxpayers have approved. And then we have the facilities referendum.
Are both of those coming due at the same time?
I think they're, so the facilities one, part of it drops off, a small part of it the first year, and then a bigger part the second year, I
Okay.
believe. So, yeah, they could come into one vote. Yeah, I don't know.
They're not bumped up at the same time, though, I think is what
Yeah.
Jeremy's asking. Are the expiration dates or the due dates for the bonds and both of them at the same time? I think they're off a cycle
By 1 year.
by 1 year.
Yep, I think, but I think there's part of our facilities, a small one, that comes due the same year our operating referendum, and then the large one the following year, I think.
We need to take a look at.
Yep.
Because I think what, I don't know, there's some logic in keeping our tax levy neutral. think the taxpayers would have a better appetite for that.
What, yeah, I think I agree with that as well. Just a matter of what that referendum is for is my question. We probably need to start those conversations sooner than later. In the next couple of months, I'm thinking we'll probably shed quite a bit of light on that conversation, but I'm just
Yeah, I
wondering when
think
we need to start that.
prioritize. So do we want to harden our facilities? Is that a priority? Is the HVAC? Is there a way to combine those?
Yeah.
You know, and I just threw out two that I just can recall off the top of my head. Ag, shop, those are other things too that we've discussed.
Right.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Schneider.
And I will get you better answers on that.
Thank you.
And get that to you in your weekly update. So.
Our next item is our celebrations and recognitions, and personally, this is my favorite part of the meeting, where I get to recognize at the board level all the great people that here at Wyoming. So from Burt, Rainey Elementary, thank you to the BRE Fun Day Committee for all of the extra time and effort you put into planning and implementing BRE's Fun Day for our students. A special thank you to Francis Staub and Terry Paulson for saving the day with their generator knowledge. And thank you to Mrs. Lyseth and Mrs. Lisi, second grade teachers, for planning a parent game day with your students. We appreciate all of the work that you put into making such a fun event happen. Thank you to Tim Knapper and Alyssa Hoffman for your patience in dealing with all of BRE's events, gym space, date changes, etc. Your assistance, organization, and support are appreciated. And thank you to the 5th grade staff for planning the 5th grade Wax Museum event, which was recently held in the Wyoming Auxiliary Gym. We received many compliments from the 100+ visitors who attended on how well prepared the students were and what an awesome event it was. Thank you for all of your efforts with this annual event. Thank you to Nicole Johnston, Special Education Director, for supporting all of the special education needs at BRE this year. Your expertise is acknowledged and appreciated. Thank you to Leslie Ruffslin, Sadie Kluver, and Keisha Lawaji for organizing and hosting a special parent event in your classroom. Your abilities to always think creatively is appreciated. And thank you to Bernadette Karstensen and Paula Panitsky for dealing with the weather elements this year as you headed up Burt and Rainey's school patrol program. Your ability to stand out in our crazy Minnesota weather to keep our children safe is appreciated by staff, students, parents, and our community. And thank you to Burt Rainey's preschool staff and Wyoming food service staff who were able to switch gears quickly in rescheduling our preschool parent breakfast. This event was originally scheduled to be held on Friday, May 13th, but due to storm damage had to be rescheduled. So thank you for all of your work in making such a fun event happen. From the Wyoming Middle School High School, Mr. Schneider has been a tremendous support the last year while Mr. Kent served in that position as middle school high school principal. He is thoughtful in his decision-making, hardworking, and very knowledgeable. Thanks for everything that you do, Mr. Schneider. Mrs. Hanson is a tremendous administrator. She has been a steadfast support to me, Mr. Kent, throughout the 21-22 school year. She cares deeply about the students and staff she serves and her role in the district in general. She is very knowledgeable and very much willing to share her expertise and knowledge with others. It has been a great pleasure to work with Mrs. Hanson as a colleague this past year, and thank you for everything, Mrs. Hanson. And from the district, thank you to the individuals who served and continue to serve on the principal interview panel. Sharon Rupp, Ron Winter, Matt Semple, Lisa Hanson, Crystal Enninga, Melissa Jimenez, Clark Anderson, Barb Chorkey, Denise Strike, Stacy Hins, Adam Sabriego, and Cade Davidson. Also, special thanks to the student committee, Jordan Bachland, Riley Strike, Kaylee Lepke, Amelia Blue Ochoa, Zach McGeary, and Ava Wilkening. Their time and efforts have a significant impact upon identifying the proper candidate for the position, and their work is invaluable in helping guide our school and district. And I'm going to second that. Students are invaluable. Next is committee reports, the board members. And we had, the only one I know of, policy committee.
Policy committee had a lot of just standard revisions. Some were substantial changes, some not, mostly related to legal changes. The biggest change that we talked about was looking at removing the no hat requirement in the high school, middle school as part of a policy. There'll be quite a few single reading items for tonight that are just minor legal changes.
Yep, that's coming up on our agenda.
Yep.
Yeah. A couple of other things that were discussed at policy were student memorials, and that is also coming up on the agenda. We talked about some requests from the American Indian Parent Advisory Committee. Trying to look at my notes here. Student handbooks for the coming year. We reviewed those, and those are also on our agenda later. Yeah. It's a long meeting. We got a lot discussed. Were there any other committee meetings since our last board meeting? Buildings and grounds, or no? Okay. Okay, then we're on to item number 9, new business. Our personnel items. Leave requests and resignations include to accept a resignation of BRE paraprofessional Deb Posh and accept a resignation BRE paraprofessional Kathy Eniga. Is there motion to approve those 2 resignations?
I'll make that motion.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second by LeBlanc.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next item are new hires. We'll need a motion to approve employment of elementary teacher Larissa Kockelman, approval of employment for middle school, high school paraprofessional Mary Beckler, and approval of employment assistant volleyball coach Amanda Stengel. Their motion to approve.
I'll move to approve the new hires.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second by Zempel.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries, and welcome to our new hires. Next is a resolution for the 2022-2023 membership in Minnesota State High School League. I believe that is on board book.
Did the price stay the same this year? Or did it go up? I think it went up last year, correct?
Yeah.
And then significantly, so
Substantially.
this year, hopefully it stayed the same?
I really don't know, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, there is a motion. Is there a second?
Second by Odegaard.
There is a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, this is a resolution, so we'll do roll call vote. Start with Director Winter.
Ron Winter, yes.
Jeremy LeBlanc, yes.
Sonia Peterson, yes.
Sharon Rupp, yes.
Dawn Odegaard, yes.
Matt Zempel, yes.
Motion carries. Next item is approval of the Burt Rainey Elementary Student Handbook for the 2022 to 23 school year.
Other
Minor-
than some names and stuff, it's, and then the pupil PPRA. There was not substantial
Protection,
changes.
protection of pupil rights amendment.
There we go.
Is that a statutory thing to include, or just something we
Yes,
decide?
it
Because
is.
it's in both
Yeah.
the manuals, yeah.
And that was an addition.
It was an
correct?
addition, but it's a required addition.
Required
Required
addition.
edition.
Okay, is there a motion to approve Burt Rainey Elementary Student Handbook for the 2022 to 23 school year?
Motion to approve by Zumble.
There's a-
Second by Peterson.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next item is approval of the Wyoming Middle School, High School Student Handbook for the 2022 to 23 school year.
Motion to approve by Zumble.
Okay. There is a motion. Is there a second?
Second by LeBlanc.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next item is approval of property and casualty insurance premium summary for the 2022 to 2023 school year. Is there a motion to approve? Is this annual?
Yes.
The annual?
Motion to approve by Odegaard.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second by LeBlanc.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next is approval of the 2022 to 2023 staff development calendar.
Motion to approve by Zumble.
There is a motion. Is there a second?
Second by Peterson.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next is call for bids for the milk and the milk products for the 2022 to 2023 school year. And this is just a call for bids. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve by Odegaard.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second by Winter.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next item is approval of budget revisions for the fiscal year 22. And I believe all that information is on board book as well.
You want to hit any of the highlights there?
Jeremy, want to mention anything?
So if we are looking at, let's pull up the revised budget. So at the beginning of the year with our original budget, we had been looking at an unreserved deficit of about 455,000. With the revised budget and where everything's coming in this year, we're looking at that unreserved being about 154,000. So we've improved that. I still see that improving once final numbers come in. We usually underspend some of those expense budgets, so hopefully we can still get that under 100,000 this year.
Amazing.
One of the bigger items that was added with the, we didn't budget for the insurance or COVID funding last year. We just didn't know where all that was gonna come in. With the insurance, we are looking at a positive after expenses and what we've brought in from the claims, about $471,000 that we've basically made off of that insurance claim.
Good.
The some of that, from 455,000 to 154,000, a majority of that too was using that ESSER $2. So bringing those out of general fund expenses and using our ESSER $2 money. So overall, all the funds we're looking at a positive $169,000 end of the year.
And a lot of that is due to ESSER funds.
Yep. that and the insurance, the positive
Sure.
insurance money.
Okay.
Yep. So yeah, I think we're looking good for this year, and I think we'll still probably get that under 100,000 deficit in that unreserved account. Fiscal year '23 proposed budget, we, for unreserved, we're looking at about $242,000 deficit right now. There's a lot of moving parts this next year. We've got SR3 that we're gonna be, right now, we budgeted only for what expenses we know. So that's the van that was approved, that hasn't come in. That's the curriculum coordinator that we moved out, the new first grade teacher. So some of those things we budgeted for. And then like food service is kind of an unknown, where not everybody's gonna be free lunch this next year. So the revenue is coming in, we don't know where that's gonna be and what that's gonna look like. So I think we budgeted the best we could, and a lot of those numbers are coming from 2 years ago, because we're now coming off of COVID. So we're looking more at a normal school year, so the best numbers we have are 2 years ago. But with that, supplies are going up, utilities are going up, so there's a lot of unknowns this year. So I think we'll be looking at mid-year, probably a budget revision, once we have a better idea of where things are going in. So that's where we're sitting right now.
Okay, thank you for that. Any questions?
The 471 for the insurance proceeds, we discussed designating those. This is just an accounting for that, correct? That doesn't change the designation that we were discussing?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
It has, even if it's designated, it's going to be housed in general fund.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, and feel free to email me if you guys have questions, and I can shoot an email back.
and, you know, like he said that, so this year getting it down to 154,000, that's a major feat, folks.
Yeah.
They did a lot of stuff to try and do that, and the ESSER dollars allowed us that flexibility. A good example in terms of personnel, actually 2 examples, is our school nurse, all right? So that will be covered out of there. And then, of course, our curriculum director, integration coach. You know, that position wouldn't be possible without ESSER dollars. So that's what brought it down to some. Don't like that it's in the red, but better than some.
That's what it is. Yeah.
And with fiscal year '23, like you said, we still have quite a bit of ESSER 3 money. It's just not budgeted right now. So those expenses are in general fund that can be moved out eventually.
As soon as we designate those, we figure out the budget, get that budget submitted. We first have to clean up, do a budget for the last 2 quarters of fiscal year '22, and then we'll go into fiscal year '23, set budgets.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you, Jeremy. Okay, so is there a motion to approve the budget revisions for fiscal year '22?
By LeBlanc to approve.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second by Zempel.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Then next is approval of preliminary budget for fiscal year '23.
Motion to approve preliminary budget for fiscal year '23 by Zempel.
Second by Peterson.
Thank you. There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next item is our policy update. We've got quite a few policies here. Just to kind of summarize, Our Wymey Student Memorials Policy, this is our first reading of that. Also, first reading of Policy 414, mandated reporting of child neglect or physical or sexual abuse. And first reading for Policy 504, student dress appearance, which is an update. All the others are either annual reviews with no changes, or there were no substantive changes within those policies, and we are allowed to approve those with one reading. Did I say that right? Yep. Okay.
So the first ones that are noted first reading can be approved?
That
what
is
you're saying?
the first of two readings.
We'll approve our first
So we'll
first
have to
reading.
do those
Separate motions?
Okay. So we'll do item 10.1, 10.4, and 10.5, which are our first readings of those. So is there, we do a motion?
Motion for each of them, or?
Or do we only do it on a,
I don't think we motion on the first reading, isn't it more just informational?
Yeah,
Yep.
probably.
We motion, we approve them at the second reading.
yeah, we approve them then.
Mhm.
Okay.
But
So
this
there's-
might be a good time to have conversations about each one, because then next month we're gonna turn around, barring any changes, will be the second reading. Are there
So-
questions?
so,
about
yeah.
Student memorials, student dress code, and what's the other one?
So the student dress code is really just removing the part that says no hats.
Correct.
Right,
The student memorial policy is a new policy that we've not had before.
right.
Right.
So the student, let's take them each individually.
Sure.
The student memorial policy is just to give us guidance on permanent memorials in the case of death of a student while attending our school. This provides that guidance, and then, of course, if you read through it, the last thing is it says superintendent has the discretion for that. I don't know what exception there would be, but
Any
there's no
questions about
really
that?
about that. Then the next one is 504 is the student dress and appearance. Like she said, that's removing the hat. Now, that doesn't mean that, say, whatever, BRE can't have a policy or a practice on hats in school, right? It just means that they're not painted in the corner saying
Mhm.
that they can't have it. Does that make sense?
Yes. And what about?
And then 414.
414.
That one
414, that's
underwent.
really illegal. That's from MSBA, that one needed substantial changes to it. And
Right.
so there's
So we,
a lot of changes.
Right, but
calling it
we've
a first
had the
reading.
policy, it just has substantive changes. Yeah.
right. the-
They changed a lot of the legal definitions, added
Yep.
a lot of case law changes in the
So the guide from MSBA was if there were no substantive changes in the policy verbiage, we can approve them with one reading.
This wasn't-
If there were substantial changes or a new policy, we needed a first and second reading. So that's where we're kind of pulling those out.
Yep,
Okay.
makes sense.
So I would like to approve then tonight those that with no substantive changes or those that have no changes, but we need an annual review.
And the policy committee has reviewed them.
Yep.
So those three board members then are recommending their.
Yep. Yes, thank you. So those policies are policy 410, 413, 506, 514, 520, 522, 524, 603, 611, 613, 614, 615, 806-616, as well as the crisis response flip chart and the emergency action plan that supports that flip chart. So
Motion to approve the policy changes as read by Chair Rupp.
okay, thank you. There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed, no. That motion carries. So then next month, we will have our second reading on Wyoming student memorials and policy 414 and 504. And I just realized I missed an item, our 9.10. Our 9.10 that we added at the beginning of the meeting, the contract for student teaching with SDSU. So I apologize. I think we've done this before, approving a contract with other colleges.
We
So
just have one from SMSU or some,
we have one with SM,
It's SD?
I didn't have time to
SDSU.
do the research, so
We
I
just
didn't add
approved
it to
one
the
not that long
consent.
ago.
I just,
but
I think that was SMS.
I think that was MSU.
I do, it was not
Yeah,
SDSU.
it was not.
MSU maybe, I think. Can you just
No.
summarize what it is since we don't have an attachment for it?
it's just an agreement between us and the school to allow their students to do their student teaching.
Right. It isn't a specific student, it's just a general blanket
Correct.
statement saying we're open to it.
And a little bit of it is, it promotes the idea that we want student teachers here.
I'll
So-
make a motion to approve the contract for student teaching with South Dakota State University.
Thank you. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second by Winter.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Next discussion item is meal prices for the 2022 to 2023 school year.
So those would be approved in the month of July. We approved that along with our fees and rate schedule. There's quite a few things, but I wanted to kind of plant a seed right now for you to think about. So there's a couple things. Meals are not expected to be free this coming year.
Do we know that 100% sure they're not going to be free?
Well,
we
unless the
decided?
legislature convenes and decides, but that idea kind of went away about a month and a half ago.
Slim to
So I
none.
really don't think that's going to happen, all right? My fear is that we will have a lot of people with unpaid lunch bills, all right? So we do need to be cognizant of that. But we also need to look at, normally during this process of establishing lunch costs or meal prices, what's that thing called, PLE? There's a tool we have to go through, figure out how much should go up, our prices should go up. We don't have that. That was 2 years ago. We can set it. I kind of right now put in there a 10-cent increase. We know we made money during this, but anytime we have lost money, that comes directly out of our general fund dollars. So even raising it 10 cents is going to increase some revenue, but my fear is it's not probably going to take us long to take the balance of our food service account and drain that down when we have to start supplementing our food service program again, as was done in the past. Like I said, $25,000 to $30,000 out of general fund to supplement that.
I feel like just because parents haven't been paying for lunches for, is it 2 years now? I feel like the sooner we can let the parents know about the increase and that they will be paying this school year, the better. Just that, parents' budget or heads up, this is coming, and it's only a couple months away. So I think if we could give them a heads up about this.
Actually, in the past years, we weren't able to set that price until August 1st. That's why it always came so late and was frustrating. But that's not our timeline.
No,
That's
no.
USDA's and MDE's timeline.
Right.
Not ours.
Do you think it's
So-
possible to set, I mean, even though we don't know yet until July, it's only June, do you think it's possible to send an email out to parents just saying,
Right.
you know?
Well, that would be my intent. So July, we set those prices, and then we communicate it out, all right? Another piece of this is, if you recall, up until 3 years ago, we offered free breakfast for all of our students through grade 3, correct? And so, now, understand that kindergarten gets free breakfast no matter what, okay? That's a program. MDE, I believe, program, or
And that's still
USDA.
happening this coming year, as far as.
That will still happen.
Okay.
There's nothing led us to believe that that will change,
Okay.
all right? We do have, now our preschool kiddos, again, with our, it's actually called the Summer Food Service Program, which was run throughout the school year. That's actually what it was called. That allowed our preschool kiddos to eat free, right? They will no longer be free, but our price structure also does not really represent that those meals have to be paid for, right? It's another, if I can complicate things anymore, I'm going to. Our special ed students who come to preschool free now may not qualify for free meals unless they fill out the educational benefits. So we've got that layered on top. So this K through 3 could become a pre-K through 3 free breakfast. The other thing that's impacted is we now have more kindergarten kiddos eating breakfast than ever because it's actually integrated into their school day. So even though it was always free for our kindergarten kiddos, again, I probably could make it more complicated, but
Please don't.
it's now, every one of those kindergarten kiddos comes over and eats breakfast, right? Before, when it was free, only the students that came over to our building ate free breakfast. Lisa, is there anything else I'm forgetting?
Just that preschool also does the same thing.
Yes,
So
but,
in years past, we only had a few preschoolers that would maybe go with an older sibling.
Mm-hmm.
Now they all go at about 8, 12, 8, 13.
It's part of their day together.
we, of course, we get better participation, all right? But the preschool, it's not going to be free. Make sense? Sort of?
So,
Yep.
all the more
So,
important to.
one thing to think about is, do we want to continue to offer K through 3 free breakfast? Right? K is going to be free no matter what. Preschool is not.
Well, for-
First through third is not.
If we're thinking of offering K through 3, that still leaves the preschoolers out, though, for free breakfast, correct?
Correct.
Or do we modify it and go preschool through 2nd?
Didn't we?
Or preschool
did-
through
was-
3?
Was the recommend, not to interrupt, but wasn't the recommendation for through grade 3 have to do with learning, reading, there was some research?
Being prepared to learn.
Being prepared to
Because
learn, it was some
they
research
have some
based.
food. Yeah, of course. I mean, wouldn't you think they're going, hungry kiddos can't learn as well as not hungry?
No, I agree, I just am wondering where third grade came from. I believe it had something to do with some,
Research.
Age, yeah.
I don't know, I'm looking to some people that know, remember.
It may have, but I also think it may have been a budget. You know, that we did what we could at the time.
So, first, second, and third grade, those kiddos will only get the free breakfast if they come over for it. And unfortunately, I don't know what the participation level is. In fact, I don't even know that Marlis would know, because in the summer food service program, we don't record what grade they're in or the name. We just put a check.
And we have no idea, like, how much this would cost. You know,
We can go back to what we did have. I think I have the round figure of $10,000 per year.
10,000 per year?
Yeah.
For that breakfast.
Or breakfast.
Kids are eating breakfast now than ever before.
That's good.
So,
So out of the pre-K through 3 breakfast, there's only a program for the kindergartners.
That seems, I mean, it should be like that.
Pre-K isn't really,
well, okay, so here's how that cost of a breakfast or lunch is hidden in the preschool program. Normally, I believe, we include that as the cost of the tuition.
That's what I was just going to ask. Is that part of the tuition?
Yeah. So, and ultimately, that's probably what we're gonna do anyway, is charge the preschool program for the cost of those meals.
Not the parent. I mean, the parent will be paying
Well,
for
eventually.
it eventually anyway. If they're
But
paying
this
for it.
next year,
Because
we're
they're-
probably just gonna build a preschool program. And we'll just see how that plays out. I mean, unfortunately, we don't know what it's gonna look like.
well, it's good discussion. I think I agree with Sonia in that it's important that we get the decision out there as soon as we can after July when we know what we're gonna do.
Well, and I'm just thinking with that milk, the milk products too, you know, when the bids come back, they're going to have to be higher this year than they have been because milk prices are crazy right now. I mean, correct?
And
Don't you
bread.
think? And bread too, that's right, that bread. That's right, that is in there too. And those prices come back in July? Is that when we get those back? And I just
Is
have a
that when
feeling
the
that's going to
open
be
bids in July?
more expensive than we have ever seen it. Oh, lovely.
So all the more reason to encourage the completion of that educational benefits form.
And, you know, of course, we get it out in July, start communicating in July through a variety of different things. Some other things we gotta set in July too is the cost for Chromebook insurance, every fee we have. We set that all at once, so.
So I've- go
Sorry,
ahead.
what was the rationale for the 10 cents?
Me?
Yeah.
I just threw a number out there that wouldn't, you know, I thought 10 cents on 184 days.
Well, we haven't raised prices even before COVID. We haven't raised.
So if we carry a negative fund balance in the food service account, that's when we have to do that
Minimum.
tool. And then they force us to increase, I think it's 10% increments. So I think that's where that, or that 10 cents.
10 cent.
Yeah, it
You
is.
can increase at any time.
You can lose money by that PLE tool, but the minimum you have to raise it is 10 cents.
Okay.
But
But I
if we
just want to
set
say
it
it's
up
been a few
20
years
cents,
since we've increased it though, hasn't
We have
it?
a fund balance right now,
Okay.
so we haven't had.
We haven't had to increase it even
Well, we
before
haven't charged for
COVID.
meals.
Yeah, sure.
But even before COVID, I don't think we increased it. It's been a while since we increased it on our own,
Well,
wasn't
I
it?
think we were increasing it 10 cents.
Every year? Were we? Okay, I don't remember. It's been so long.
I guess I'm not, at this point, I'm not advocating for more than 10 cents. I'm just wondering if we're setting ourselves up for a quicker deficit balance if we don't
Or a big
yeah.
catch-up.
consider higher, yeah.
So we just approved the handbooks. Are these prices in that handbook?
No, we took them out
Okay.
because that was just,
Okay.
I didn't want them in there. It's too complicated.
I remember
That's
that.
why,
It
that's
is.
actually the origin of the fees and rates schedule. Is
Okay.
so that we have just one document.
Mhm.
Don't have to plug it in.
Sure.
elsewhere.
Makes sense.
Okay. It's food for thought. Pun intended. Next item is correspondence. I have no correspondence received. Upcoming events. Our next board meeting is July 11th, 2022, here in the Wyoming Boardroom at 6 p.m. And at this time, we'll go into closed session pursuant to Minnesota Statutes Section 13D.03 for the purpose of discussing the district's labor negotiations strategy related to negotiations with bargaining groups. Upon reopening the meeting, there will be no further business anticipated, and the meeting will be adjourned at that time. So we'll take a short pause here to